I don't know. Nah.
Welcome back, everybody, to another round of My Patriot Report Live. I am Ratwan Hill, and I am with Mr. Walter Cotton III. Mr. Cotton, how's it going, man?
Man, it's going well. It's going well. Going well.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, absolutely. Any plans for the holidays?
I holiday in Buffalo, New York with my sister-in-law. You might remember this venue that I'm at because we were here last year when I was about to break out for the big world tour on the Vikings. So I'm here in Buffalo, New York, spreading some love.
Absolutely, absolutely. Isn't that when you make the jerk prime rib? Is that
Yes, I will be making the famous jerk prime rib. My brother-in-law comes all the way up from Long Island to get him a belly full of that jerk prime rib, and so we're going to be having some fun.
yes, sir? Okay, is that a family recipe, or how did you learn how did you learn how to cook?
I have been working in restaurants for a very. I started working in restaurants at a very young age. Let me just say it that way, and actually was mentored by chefs from the Culinary Institutes of America. And so when I say I can cook, bruh man can cook. We're talking pate de foie, sotumbaka, uh, veal marsala. I mean, I can cook. I can debone a leg of veal, and I can make the best bechamel sauce that one would like to taste. And so I got to a place with my cooking where the manual from the Culinary Institute of America really didn't do it for me anymore, and I started experimenting with different ingredients and flavors, and now I consider myself above a chef. I'm next level. I'm an artisan in the kitchen. I like to waltz into the kitchen with just ingredients and never come out with the same creation.
Absolutely.
And so
So you
that's how I
definitely cook
found
with
my way
love.
to the. I'm sorry, let me finish the thought on the jerk prime rib. That's how I found my way to the jerk prime rib. One of my aunts had a rib recipe where she would actually do uh, diamond cuts in the rib, and she would stuff seasoning into those, crevices, and then she would cook the meat, and it would come out just so tasty. And I was married to a woman who was from a yard in Jamaica. So I said, hey, let's combine the two. And one year I just took a prime rib and some jerk seasoning, and the rest is history. The rest is history. So that's how the jerk prime rib recipe was invented. Try it, you'll like it.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. So how did you go from? Okay, it's a little bit off topic of what I want to talk about. I had to burn the question though. How you go from a chef to being in a culinary background to government contracting? I mean, it seems like it was that was before your military time, correct? Or was that during or after? Or
Yeah, the culinary experience was before my military time, and they say that necessity tends to be the mother of invention. And I wasn't dealt a middle class or upper middle class hand as a young man, and so I had to make my way. Right. I think that we've talked about the fact that I was homeless in Syracuse, New York, at age 14 because my mother had some mental challenges, and I was faced with that Hobson's choice at a very, very early age, right? And for those of you who don't know what a Hobson's choice is, that's no real choice, right? Fight or flight. And so I got a job working in a restaurant. The only thing a 14-year-old could do under the table back then, and begged my way onto the line, learned how to cook, and just had this voracious appetite for learning. And the chefs took me under their wing, and I took advantage of the opportunity. Right? They taught me how to do something that I knew that they were getting paid for, right? And I knew that one day, if I could learn how to do it well enough, I could get rid of these rubbery duck fingers that I got from being a dishwasher, right? I could, put on an apron and flip a burger. And so I got the idea of becoming upwardly mobile, sitting there at the dishwasher watching them do things with less effort than I was doing it. And so what I said was, man, if I could learn how to cook, I could get away from this dishwasher. And I recognized that the dishes came in waves, right? There were times I'd be there at the dishwasher just to twiddling my thumbs. And then after the dinner rush, oh, dishes everywhere. And so I said to myself, man, if there was a way I could normalize that outcome, what I would do is I'd free up some time so I could get the chefs to teach me how to cook. And so I figured out what the problem was. Waitresses weren't pre-bussing the tables. They'd wait till the whole party get up and take all of the dishes and throw it in the thing and bring it back to me. And that was a problem. So if I could figure out a way to get them to, pre-bus the tables in an organized fashion, it would free up some time for me to, you know, maybe learn how to cook. So I had a meeting with the waitresses and I said, hey, I like you to, they laughed me out of the, they laughed me out of the meeting. Like, are you crazy? So that didn't work. I had to innovate. And I said, well, they're not going to do that. That's not going to work. I said, man, I wonder if they would let me bust the tables. Of course, made their job easier. Yeah, go ahead, have at it. With ownership, mine, you walking around with that wet apron busting tables. No, I changed it into a nice apron. And so they let me do that. So I actually developed a strategy where I would, when the meal started, I would time when the dishes would come, and I'd go around and I'd get the salad plates, and I'd go back and wash them and stuff like that. And I was able to do it in such an organized fashion that I had the additional time. And I think that the young chefs took pity on the little black kid that was being innovative. And they said, man, if he did that, we'll give him a shot. And they did. And the rest is culinary history.
Man, you live so many lives. So from what I'm hearing, you always been a critical thinker and a problem solver since since you've been a young kid.
I guess that's what I'm maturing to understand. But again, they say that necessity is the mother of invention, right? Pressure bust pipes, or it makes diamonds. And I have had the fortunate outcome of things working out for me when I know that there were people that came from the same kind of an environment that I came from that things didn't work out so well for.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, I wanted to dive in more to that, but you know what? I think that's a good piece for people, for individuals who watching to learn a little bit about Mr. Cotton's history, and we'll keep sowing these seeds later on down the line in future events. I want to talk about the National Defense Authorization Act. Is signed for fiscal year 26. The fiscal year 26 National Defense Authorization Act is signed.
We still want to talk about that, man. They passed the bill,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they did it to us again,
Mm-hmm.
right? The banana in the tailpipe. They didn't pass the disabled veteran contracting. Oh, I'm sorry, they didn't pass the contracting law for veteran-owned businesses again. And so I don't want to talk about the Defense Authorization Act of 2026 anymore. That's done. What I want to start talking about now is I want to start talking about the 2026 midterm election, right?
Yeah.
And I equally want to talk about the fact that those veteran advocates that push the 10650 needle, people like my mentor and good friend Bill Elmore, these people are passing the baton, right? Bill has made the decision that his last few years he wants to focus on his wife. He wants to focus on spending time with his family, his own personal health, and things like that. And so the advocacy baton has been passed to my hand, right?
Mhm.
And so now I'm taking on the responsibility of finishing the work of people who mentored me into this space. And the difference between me as an advocate and I want those of you who are within the sound of my voice to pay close attention to what I'm about to say, is that most of the advocates that you've dealt with in the past have come up from a uh, government employment perspective. They've been civil servants who have had the additional responsibility of growing to the top of the advocacy ranks. And as a result of that, those individuals suffered from a particular cultural deficit, right? They had more adoration and respect for titles and office than people that don't come from inside the civil service ranks, that don't come from inside government. I am that advocate. I come from the corporate ranks, right? And we understand that if you bring your guns, lawyers, and extra ammunition to any requirement, you can solve it. And I am bringing the cotton, guns, lawyers, and extra ammunition to two goals. One, I will achieve the outcome of creating a gold program for veteran owned small businesses as a part of the Defense Authorization Act. You have my word on that. The second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that him and her who bore the battle enjoy the greatest amount of benefit from this wealth transfer that's occurring as a result of this dismantling DEI thing by being the safe harbor that our agencies need for these contracts that are being disrupted by suspensions and novation. So there you have it, folks. Right? I'm calling my shot like Jordan in '93. We are going to ensure that my friends and my mentors' desire, right, their bucket list item gets achieved, and we're going to make sure that him and her who bore the battle have the maximum practicable opportunity to participate in the wealth transfer that's resulting from this dismantling DEI initiative.
Mhm. Yes. Okay. What's the biggest differentiator and advantage coming from the corporate realm versus coming from the public servant realm? What gives you the greater advantage and or the greatest differentiator in your approach to how you attack these issues?
Well, the greatest differentiator comes from the funding sources for the different communities, right? In the public sector, there are tax revenues, right? There are events that occur on an annual basis that refill the kitty, right? So, whether you do anything to innovate or not in your position as a government employee, at the end of the next year, there'll be a new set of appropriations that will pay the bills. It doesn't work that way in corporate America, right? In the real world, right? You eat what you kill, right? You keep what you capture. And so we have to, in corporate America, we have to be efficient. We have to be innovative in order to hope for sustainment, in order to stay in business. And just that need, right, to feed keeps the corporate person on the cutting edge of innovation, keeps them asking questions of how do I make it better? Why not? When other people are saying it can't be done. Whereas on the government side of the equation, and this is just something that comes from, the lack of threat, there's a softness in the way government people go about performing their job, right? There's a laissez faire that goes along with the understanding that, you know what, there's tomorrow. Tomorrow, there's always going to be a tomorrow, right? Because I got taxpayers. That doesn't happen on the corporate side of the equation. So we look at things from a different eye with a certain level of tenacity. It's got to be done. And so, um, just opposing the way my friends, and these are people who taught me a lot and I respect, approach this effort to create a goal for veterans at DOD. The difference between the way they approached it and the way I approached it, I'm not taking any prisoners, right? I absolutely positively know that the secretary over at the SBA already has special consideration authority, and we don't need any additional legislation to get this job done. So I'm going to go and ask her to do the right thing, and I'm going to point the attention back to the administration that's in office right now because that's who she works for. Then I'm equally going to our politicians, right? I'm going to our senators, right? Because our congressman did the right thing, right? Shout out to Congressman Van Orden, right? They did the right thing and they added this language to the House side of the National Defense Authorization Act. But our senators, the ones that are supposed to be doing the strategic steering of the ship, for whatever reason, they had a brain fart and saw fit not to include something that the CBO score said was not going to have an impact on the budget. So we're going to them and we're saying to them, um, you have an accountability that you need to be held to account for. Let me just explain to the audience what just happened. When I get emotional, I don't think straight. So I'm going to back away from the emotional level here. I'm going to get this done. Period.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What is it? How can we get behind you as the veteran population or the patriots who just want to see this come into reality? What can we do to support you on this journey in this mission?
You ask a good question, and it's going to take an organized skunk works within the veterans community to get this done, right? And so what I did, and I've spent the past 20 years with our VSOs, so I know that community better than the average man, right? And so what I recognized was that in order for us to get this done without having to deal with all of the bureaucracy and infighting, we needed a special VSO. Well, fortunately, we had a special VSO in the Elite Service Disabled Veteran uh, Business Network, right? That's the first business focused VSO in the system, right? They recruited me to be the president of their New York chapter. And so I elected to take on that responsibility. And once I took on that responsibility or said I would take that responsibility, Florida raised their hand and said, we'd like you to do what you're planning to do in Florida. I'm sorry, in New York, here in Florida. So, what can a veteran who's listening to this do to support the movement? One, you can go out to the URL that you see moving across the screen. That's the Elite Service Disabled Veteran network website that I've set up. Join the network and take one of the positions that we're going to have available for governance or support of the network. But I'm going to encourage you to recognize that this is a real opportunity, right? And if you're in a conversation with me about this, I want you to recognize the seriousness of this, and I'm going to share an encounter that I had with a uh, stupid ass black bastard in Syracuse, New York, that just came to fruition. And I am in the process of finding an executive director for Syracuse and had an encounter with a young man about that interest. And I shared with him the particulars of what I was looking for. And this individual decided to go on a vacation to Hawaii without responding to my request. And then when I followed up, after his vacation to Hawaii, just the indignance with which he approached the communication with me about a $200,000 a year job that he was trying to pursue with my organization. I'm just going to put everybody on notice that if you see my face in the place, right, you're talking to a living legend, right? I've got over $150 billion worth of past performance. I know everybody from the Hill to the House to the agency, and I am reclaiming my time. So this is an opportunity for you to get with these heroes and help us build something. So you can simply go out to that website that you see surfing across the screen and get involved. That's what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, indeed. When you think about growing the elite SDVOSB network, what
Mhm.
matters more to you, the veteran population, the economics, or the long-term upside?
It's the long term upside,
Mhm.
right? And I say it's the long term upside because we have a material wealth transfer that's going on in this nation right now. And as a part of that wealth transfer, the people who are making the material contribution to the economic fundamentals of this nation are going to change, right? If veterans are the ones that own the contracting relationship with the agencies, they're going to be able to bring a patriotic bent they're going to be able to bring a patriotic perspective to how they approach the needs of this great nation. And so I just believe that long term, right, if we throw the future, right, the economic future of this country into the hands of the patriots and their families, it'll serve the nation long term. I believe that the trajectory of the arc of performance for that community will yield a economy that's fair, it's robust, and it's sustainable.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit more about, you know, the Florida or New York, where you elect to have your chapter at. What makes one state better than another for veterans trying to scale real company? Is it a difference in where the chapter is and the benefits that they get from being a part of it?
I'm trying to answer that question right now, right? New York versus Florida, right? And I'm being faced with this choice right now, and it's a unique situation for me because I have an affinity for both communities, right? I was born in Florida. I know the economic attributes of that geography, multiple port cities. I mean, just the capabilities of the Florida economy I know well. And I grew up in Syracuse, New York, right? As we talk, I'm here in Buffalo, right? The border. I mean, I'm literally less than 15 miles from the border to Canada, right? And so I know the central New York region, right? I know its rich economic history. I've waxed sentimentally about what can be done in this community. And so when it comes to which one of these communities is better for veterans and for the future of veteran economic development, it's really going to pivot on which one of these communities is best for Walter. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that simple. It's really going to pivot on which one of these communities decides that it wants to get a little cotton in its ear and recruits me in to put the foundation in for this $50 billion outcome that I'm generating for 2026. It's just that simple. And so the example that I gave you about this stupid ass black bastard that I experienced in Syracuse is
Mm-hmm.
juxtaposed by a invitation that I got from a law school in Florida to build out a veteran law academy right in the town that I was born in. So the pivot as to I mean, both of them have geographic advantages. Both of them have population advantages, but the differentiator is going to be which one does the best job of recruiting Mr. Cotton to be the engineer, to be the architect that puts the solution in place. That's the answer.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for those states and the state representatives that are that potentially are listening, what are some of the things that you're looking for from these states that gives you green flags?
Engagement.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking
Mm-hmm.
for proactive engagement, and I'm looking at the culture within those communities. And so, clearly, you've got the political considerations there with the two states, right? One state is, headed by a governor that is a Republican. The other is headed by a governor that's a Democrat, right? Uh, I don't tend to play on the partisan side of the equation, right? I'm a patriot, right? I'm doing what's in the best interest of these United States from a constitutional perspective. And so I'm wrestling with this real time on the camera because the criteria for what makes Walter feel comfortable is the litmus test that I'm using because I believe that it's the same thing that's going to make the other veterans in my fraternity feel comfortable. If Walter sends a communication into your office and you're responsive and inviting, Walter would assume that if someone from his fraternity sends a communication into your ecosystem in the future, they're going to experience that same kind of outcome. So I think it's a matter of, you know, me evaluating how your state treats him and her who bore the battle when they come and ask you for your attention, when they ask you for a moment of your time.
Absolutely. So we're looking for communicative. We're looking for the states that's most communicative and is a team player essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because, at the end of the day, if you're increasing your veteran population, you're giving yourself an advantage over the other states, right? Because, depending on the portion of that population that you may or may be disabled, these are individuals that are coming to the table with healthcare benefits, right? They've got housing benefits, they've got a stipend, so they're bringing an economic uplift to your community to begin with. But secondly, these are individuals that have learned how to adopt and conquer, right? They've learned how to innovate, right? They've been conditioned by the uniform code of military justice. So they know how to be members of community. So if you're seeding the future of your economy, you're seeding the future of the ethics and the economics of your region with veterans. I think you're doing yourself a favor.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know what we're doing. We're actively doing it. You know, we mentioned about the National Patriot Disaster Readiness Network, which is us taking the proactive step and doing what's right. Uh, Also with Opportunity Zone, something else that we talked about, where we have an advantage to help states and help these local neighborhoods. So yeah, I'm excited to see when you make that decision. I know the Florida weather is tempting. New York can be brick out there. I mean, cold out there. It's very.
Yeah, yeah, it was a little bit of a winter wonderland drive up here to Buffalo yesterday. My wife and I were lamenting in the car that New York was giving us a beautiful postcard, right? Because if you know anything about snow, there's a point in the snowfall when it's a fresh new snow and you've got snow on the leaves and the branches and it's quiet and scenic. And we had a postcard like that for most of our drive up with clear roads, right? So it was wonderful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, guys, we won't be having a LinkedIn live on Friday. We want you guys to enjoy your family, enjoy the holiday, enjoy some good food. Um, we will catch you guys next week. I am Ratwan Hill, and that is Mr. Walter Cotton the Third. Until next time, guys, we are out.